Okay, we're live. Okay. Thank you all for attending. This recording is done on Easter Day, and that's in 2021. And I'm gonna, the other day on Friday, what you call Good Friday, I explained about Friday and its process with Jesus and what that was really like.
We don't have mic.
You know? Oh, yeah. I got up. Okay, now we're there. All right, so today I'm going to be explaining about what you call Easter. Yeah, fine and dandy, nice little thing to say on a day of resurrection. Yeah, something that's going to save your life, your soul, the planet, the cosmos, and initiate God on earth. Yeah, that thing called resurrection. Yeah, and but you in humanity have decided to change it to Easter, and I'm going to explain to you who Easter is. Yeah, and it has nothing to do with Jesus Christ. It has to do with the wife of Satan. That's her name. Yeah, and she's well known in this, known as Ishtar or many other names. Yeah, and her husband is Baal. Yeah, and Baal is the head of the process where where we had this Babylon. Yeah, and Baal is the head of Babylon, and Baal was Satan on earth. Yeah, and Baal was killed, and in the process of Baal being killed, the wife of Baal said, well, he ascended into heaven and now he's God, and so that made her a goddess, the wife of God, and he's dead. Yeah, so she channels more and more and more and puts what's known as paganism on the earth and establishes astrology and all these different things. At the time, sacred masters and geomancers was working on astronomy, the sciences of physics and astrophysics, and where we're at today. Yeah, but she decided she'd turn it onto herself. Yeah, and Baal and the relationship of this Easter is the focus of the astral plane or astrology. Yeah, and it frequencies into our relationships of ceremonies. So we by knee-jerk reaction are interested in witches who practice astrology, witches or warlocks, or people who talk about pagan worships of pagan days, like in Europe and Sweden and Norwegian countries. Yeah, and that's mainly because they're so elemental and their past is so dictated to the mother goddess that all of these demons, because the mother of all demons is the wife of Satan. Yeah, and all of that influence is pretty sucks, when it comes down to we're supposed to be celebrating, the sacrifice Jesus made and the resurrection over death. And here you have a goddess that represents death. Yeah, and because next to her is an Easter bunny, which means that she's the goddess of sex, attraction and sex and overwhelming, alluring processes. Yeah, and out of that, she's the goddess of fertility. So there you have the Easter bunny. It represents fertility and sex and the egg, the whole trip. And then you call it Easter under the ceremony of your goddess. And these are her symbols, her relationship to her verification that she is God. And so this is old, and it's been around a long time. It got into Egypt, and it's in Nepal, and it's in India, and it's in Egypt, all over in Iran and Turkey and everywhere. You can imagine it. This demon has taken hold of the elemental forces and manifested the Hitlers and the Mussolinis and the dictators and death into humanity. And everybody's doing celebrations. Now, if you knew anything about Satanism, you'd find that there's a calendar in Satanism, and they practice the same thing. But they're telling everybody what's up. They're saying, oh yeah, we're worshiping the goddess, and we have to sacrifice a human being on March 21st and March 22nd, because it's in relationship to Easter, of death, and the ongoing ceremonies of bringing that into its proper force. Because ancient-wise, you can see it in the Bible, you can see it in many different ancient places, people used to sacrifice people. Yeah, and the most powerful ones to sacrifice are the babies. Yeah, so that's in the calendar. And Easter is the part of sacrificing babies. So then when you get to Jesus and all the babies that are sacrificed on his birth, it's under this goddess, it's under this Satan, it's under this law. And it's a knee-jerk law. Why would he do it? Why would he say, do this? Other than thinking he can knock away all the threat, by killing every single boy of this age. But it was mainly a ceremony towards Satan to create a contract that would go along with what Satan would request if you wanted to have your way under such evil forces. Yeah. Now all this leads to an angel of our time. The angel of our time is called avarice. And people think of angels, Lucifer, Satan, Azazel, all these different names of fallen angels, evil angels. Yeah. But few people know of avarice, and the angel Arhaman. Yeah. But you'd have to actually study the process that went on with Hitler. And that really nice guy you guys like that did the schools. What was his name? Huh? Steiner. Rudolf Steiner. Yeah. Everybody thinks he's like, Saint Steiner, Well, Saint Steiner was a Satanist. And he was bargaining with the devil, as an artist. And he created many statues for Hitler that represented Jesus in hell, and Satan pulling Jesus down to hell anytime he incarnates. And there's a statue of Satan reaching up really high into the earth and up out onto the place where people incarnate and grabbing Jesus and surrounding Jesus with avarice, the opposite energy that Jesus carries. Jesus gives, cares, shares, all that. No avarice whatsoever, the opposite of avarice, let alone being harmful, totally harmless. Yeah, but avarice is like the main opposite of what Jesus really is. Yeah, so this is the time of the Antichrist, and the time of the Antichrist is the influence of that angel of avarice. Yeah, so it has to manifest on earth. It has to take its hold on earth. Yeah, and let's take a look at the Catholic Church and a series of books that have just been written and coming out on the Catholic Church. And it's based on corruption. It's based on avarice.
They claim to expose some of the Vatican's most closely held secrets, and our Elizabeth Palmer had a look.
The Pope is spiritual leader to millions of Catholics. He's also CEO of a multi-billion-dollar enterprise, the Vatican. But, say the two new books, behind all this magnificence lies a financial mess. Emiliano Fittipaldi is the author of Avarice.
Is it incompetence inside the Vatican when it comes to handling money, or is it corruption?
Entrambi i problemi.
Both, says Fittipaldi, and at the highest levels.
For example, the book focuses on one of the church's charities. Catholics from around the world sent in money to help the needy. But in the end, of every $10 that came in, 8 went to the Vatican bureaucracy and only 2 went to the poor.
Avarice. 2,000 years of avarice. 2,000 years of torturing people, enslaving people, persecuting people, destroying countries, wiping away nations, eliminating races, creating all kinds of, okay, it's fine to be Hitler, we'll forgive you, put on our priest clothing, all you senior officers of the SS, here's some priest clothing, and we'll get you out. That's what happened, All of this is a process of a large process of satanic rule, and you have no idea what's going on, you just think, oh my God, people get possessed, what could be causing that, and yet it's all around you, and the biggest church is the Church of Satan, and that's called the Catholic Church, and everybody goes, well, you can't say that, but yes, I can, the process is that it is the Church of Satan. They worship Satan. Today on Easter, they did a long ceremony worshiping Satan as the Father, And what they say is that on earth, the Father is represented in the Pope. So we call him Father. So he's the incarnation of Lucifer. According to their ceremony, the Pope is the incarnation of Lucifer. Then they believe through their ceremony, through the Catholic Church, they will bring forth Lucifer's son, who they will call Christ, the Antichrist. And it's in this ceremony. It says it every Easter. You'll bring forth your son, the Christ. He will be the light of the world. We will stand behind him. We'll help you bring this forth, O Lucifer. They say it. Listen to this.
Easter. The English term relates to Ishtar, a Teutonic goddess of the rising light of day and spring. That's interesting. Okay. So what does that have to do with the resurrection, the goddess here? Some of the other names for this ancient Teutonic mother goddess, they include Ishtar, Istre, Astarte, Ostarte, Ostera, Astareth. These are all names that originated from the original mother goddess Semiramis, the mother of Tammuz. In short, Ishtar was the wife of Baal, also called the Queen of Heaven. Wait a second here. Ishtar was the wife of Baal? Baal Sabab? Satan's wife? That's just great. I mean,
He was a little shocked. Just go to the library. I found it out when I was a kid. You could have found it out when you were a kid. All you had to do is ask the question. Who's the devil? What's the devil got to do with us? And you'll find Easter, and you'll find Christmas, You'll find all these things that are ceremonies that are led by the devil and his wife and their minions, So imagine here, here you have, this is when saints, people in the Catholic Church, in order to become a saint, you have to give $500,000, Once you give $500,000, you can then ask to be inducted into sainthood, but you have to give $500,000. It's the first thing. And it doesn't matter if you're a previous pope, whoever you've been, it's still going to cost you $500,000 before you get your sainthood for life, for many lives, for the history. So, but what happens? during those cycles, you know. I mean, we know they do this Satan thing during Easter, you know. What happens when they make a pope a saint? Well, this is an event of what happened when they made a pope a saint.
Eius Lucifer matutinus inveniat. Ille in quam Lucifer qui nescito casum Christus filius tuus qui regressus ab inferis humano generis serenus iluxit et tecum vivit et regnat in saecula saeculorum.
That's just a nice little ceremony they do there for Lucifer, calling Lucifer into the room and making these people saints under Lucifer. Yeah. And the person who represents Lucifer being the Father, and the Father on earth, represented by what they believe to be God, which is Lucifer. They say it in all these ceremonies. I'll play 3 or 4 of them for you because they're done at different times. This isn't just one ceremony done occasionally. That's why nobody knows this. It's done every Easter. It's done just before Christmas. It's done every time a saint is made saint. Yeah. Major ceremonies all year long are done with Lucifer as the invocation. This is another one. This is 2012. This is the Easter Vigil Mass.
Lucifer matutinus inveniat.
I mean, what's going on here, folks? I mean, really? Hello? This is your biggest church for Jesus the Christ. And you let it stay open. And they are Luciferian people, recruiting children to be raped and molested, and they won't do anything about it. Come on. Really? Step up. Anybody? Yeah. This is 2 years later. It just shows that they do this all the time. And the Pope is always standing right there. He's the one receiving it because he is Lucifer. They're praying to him. Yeah, you gotta think about this. The Pope is in the same scene as Dalai Lama.
Christus filius tuus, qui regressus ab inferis, humano generis serenus iluxit, et tecum vivit et regnat in saecula saeculorum. Amen.
So now you got kids running around looking for Easter eggs and wanting the Easter bunny, associate with that, completely have nothing to do with Jesus Christ. Absolutely nothing. For hundreds and hundreds of years, this has been going on from Europe and other Western countries, you know, completely wiping away any growing human nature to Christ. You know, even changing the Bible, altering it completely. So if you read into it, it'll give you no hope, none whatsoever, no hope. Yeah, it doesn't tell you. It took out reincarnation. It doesn't tell you about the process behind reincarnation. You know, where's the hope? Yeah, the truth is gone, and they replace it with something else, completely something else. This is all about, just like when they voted Trump in. You know, it was all about, they want to make sure that the Antichrist comes, because the Antichrist has to come first before the coming of the Christ. That's their belief. So they have to create all kinds of wars and tribulation, signs of the Antichrist before the coming of the Christ. So hiring a Trump was the perfect thing to do. It was a thinking thing, a Christian thing. It's like them jumping in bed with Lucifer. They can't see beyond it. They, you know, I mean, they did. They did. You know, they ceremonialized Lucifer at the time of the crucifixion and the resurrection and the ascension of Jesus the Christ. That's the time when they most ceremonialized Lucifer. And that's to close the door on Jesus the Christ in the minds and hearts of all mankind. I mean, no matter how hard you want to know anything, no matter what kind of revelations you may have in past lives with sainthood to Jesus, you can wipe it away, because the Pope is here. Catholics are running around. They got the biggest churches. You know, they'll wipe away anybody who doesn't believe in it. And they practice Luciferian behavior. They carry on ceremonies. They justify everybody to do Easter rather than Christian real truth. Humility, right relationship, humbleness, you know, good moral reality between husband and wife, good satisfaction relationship, and right kind of job that doesn't rip people off and doesn't do things that are harmful for other people. You can't work for someone like that if you're a Christian. But obviously there aren't a lot of Christians, because people sell their souls for $1. That's avarice. And the head of the church is avarice. The book that came out is called Avarice. Yeah. And you're being lied to, just like Trump lied to you, just like the Dalai Lama lies to you. The Dalai Lama doesn't tell anybody about reincarnation. How is that possible? How is it possible someone who is the highest position of Buddhism isn't talking all the time about how you reincarnate and you must do everything while you're in this body, being human, is the greatest opportunity. What if you were a dog? You wouldn't have much of an opportunity to grow and further yourself in your character and your lovingness and your kindness and your thinking, all those things. This being in a human body is your opportunity. Yeah? He doesn't teach that. He doesn't teach it. Yeah? He doesn't teach anything. He just teaches his fame, that he's famous, and you should glorify that. And he should live in the honor of being famous, not have to do anything. Yeah? And I know he's a black magician and practices the art of black magic and has historically, throughout the time in Tibet, many hundreds of thousands of people have lost their lives. Yeah? Other organizations, have lost their lives in psychic battle with the Dalai Lama and the Gelugpa sect and other sects that chose to do Dark Lodge. Yeah. If you study Tibetan Buddhism, you find out Milarepa had no place to go. All the Rinpoches were dark magicians. All of them. They never were high initiates. They were always just 1 foot in the dark and 1 foot hoping for the light. But the easiest path is the dark, controlling elements, manipulating people. Those things are easy to do if you're willing to fall in hell. Yeah. And they did. And they killed Milarepa, and they destroy all these different things. That's the history of Tibet. That's why it is what it is. It may have monasteries, but it has the poorest people under the biggest slavery you'll ever imagine. And none of that is spoken of. He's given a Pulitzer Prize as though he did something right. All he did was get kicked out of being the biggest dictator on planet Earth. China looked happy and joyous compared to his place of where he lived. People had no hands, people had no feet. Their eyes were popped out, their ears were cut off. They were scarred with burning hot picks. Yeah, they were put with boards, over their neck and shackles on their hands. Yeah, and they'd sit. I could show you picture after picture after picture of thousands of people, children and old, just simply because they didn't pay the Dalai Lama. Yeah. They didn't give what they're supposed to. And because they're so poor, they actually steal. And if you don't understand, a person stealing is not something you cut their hands off for. If you're a Buddhist, you probably would get that. Yeah? These aren't Buddhists. These are black magicians under the disguise of Buddhists. I went in as Padmasambhava and started this teaching, and they're still in that same process. They've been taken over by the Bon. They still have great deal of Dark Lodge members, and they have the head of the Genghis Khan freaking incarnation sitting there as the Dalai Lama. And he kicks away Dorje Chungden, and no one really knows that Dorje Chungden was the Dalai Lama. He was the Dalai Lama. He was so compassionate, the greatest teacher known, and he died so young, and we know little about him because they killed him. Yeah, he killed him. And he is the Dalai Lama because he killed the Dalai Lama. If he hadn't done it, then imagine, here he is, it's 1400, he's 37 years old, and Dorje Chungden is 36 years old, yeah, and they both graduate, and they both go through their process, yeah, and this Dalai Lama is going to live until he's 65 years old, 65, and so would Dorje Chungden, somewhere around there, if he was allowed to live, yeah, and that means that their incarnations would have their normal cycles to them, yeah, but Dorje Chungden strangled to death, killed, murdered, yeah, at a young age, which means his birth cycle is going to happen right away. So he's going to be a 30-year different cycle in relationship to the incarnation cycles of the Dalai Lama. No chance of ever being the Dalai Lama again for maybe another 3 or 4 cycles, which is exactly what happened. Yeah, it took 3 cycles of a horrendous Dalai Lama, yeah, carrying out horrendous behavior, and slowly but surely in comes, the life of Dorje Chungden again, and given an opportunity, and there are those lives, but each one of those lives of Dorje Chungden that come, he's murdered at 10 years old, he's murdered at 20 years old, never lives beyond 22 years old, never gets to live beyond 22 years old. He's murdered. Yeah. So, and this Dalai Lama takes his place because he's murdered young. And this Dalai Lama is already in his cycle, on his own cycle. When he reincarnates, he's then thought of as being the real one. And we're just somehow missing the boat. Yeah. So this is an important thing because reincarnation is our saving grace. It's the purpose behind resurrection. It was the purpose behind everything that I did on the cross. To change the lies. To do everything I can possibly do to give you back your life. If you're put into this situation, murdered by demons and sorcerers and people who take you by black magic and make you kill other people and carry on sorcery in your own life, that happens. That happened in Tibet. All the people who I saved were good people who fell in the hands of dark magic. And the whole land became dark magic. So I had to save the whole land. Yeah. And it's the same everywhere. And I'm showing you this in relationship to the Dalai Lama or the Pope. Yeah. The only way that we come into our right relationship is when this is cleaned up. Yeah. So cleaning it up is what Easter is about. And it's not Easter. Yeah, it's resurrection. Yeah, this is the time where we realize what is the resurrection of Christ. So let's look at this. Okay, this is called an event horizon. And between crucifixion of death and the process of resurrection, everybody goes, well, shoot, he just came back to life and reappeared, and we have a cloth, and we can verify that, freaky things happen because we have a cloth, and the fact that we believe that he resurrected because his body physically reappeared and walked around with us for 40 days. Yeah. And hardly anybody believed it. They couldn't recognize him that much because he changed so much, so dramatically. Yeah. And it's mainly because he went through a process of being the creator of creation. He resurrected to that. That was his recapitulation. His resurrection was being the creator. Yeah. So he died, yeah, but he didn't kill God. You released God. Yeah. So there was a big karmic process of cleansing of what it was to hold God back with all these demigods. In the focus and the minds and the heart of all of humanity, all over the world, all these witches and warlocks and their belief systems that they had. Yeah. And they were in every single person's body, their speech, their clothing, their habits, their food, their desires, their fears, all based on witchcraft, all based on elemental disformation, a lack of communication filled with lies, insinuations, jealousy, enviousness, and avarice. Yeah, avarice being the main thing. Avarice being selfishness to the highest degree. Yeah, no, it doesn't matter if you're the richest person on planet Earth. You will not help another person. You will hoard more. Yeah, you just hide yourself, on top of a mountain and make a great big gate so nobody can get in, and you just look around the world and watch it, but nobody can touch you, nobody can see you. Yeah, that's avarice. Yeah, and that's very first ray. You could see that in the process of the first ray. So it's a process of Satan. The very opposite of the energy of the will of God is the will of Satan, and the will of Satan in its highest peak form is to be the opposite of God, which is Christ. Yeah, living embodiment of God. Yeah, so during resurrection, a death cycle. Yeah, all the crucifixion, the process of crucifixion, laying on the bed. Yeah, and you got a cloth. And according to the Bible, according to history, according to archaeology, a person, they get wrapped, they get herbs placed on them, they're washed. They're prepared to be laid in the tomb, and then they're in the tomb, and the tomb gets closed, and that's it. Yeah, but the person is wrapped. Person is wrapped with this cloth. Yeah, and they have herbs all over them. Yeah, in every place, all on their hands and by their feet, and all this kind of stuff. Very ceremonial, Jewish or whatever. Very strong ceremonial processes. But what we witnessed with this particular guy was that he left a cloth behind with a perfect image of the back side and a perfect image of the front side. Now, you can't do that if you take a cloth and wrap a person up. You won't get anything. You'll just get bits and pieces of an image of this or an image of that. You might get a bit of an eye, here and there, but you won't really get anything because you'll have creases. You'll have all kinds of bending of the cloth. There's no possible way you can get an image. But these have perfect, absolute perfect images from both the top and the bottom. Yeah. So the only way that could be done is if the person was levitating. Yeah. And the cloth was pulled tight. Yeah. On the bottom and on the top. And held above this person. Literally. It had to be that way in order for this to manifest. Yeah. And then the person turned in. Now imagine we have the speed of light, the law of the speed of light. If you take the law of the speed of light, you move through the speed of light, yeah, you hit an event horizon. You reach the speed of light. Yeah, an event horizon takes place, and all of a sudden, what is the light and what is not the light hits. Yeah, and you have infinity. You have speed of light has a definite speed point to it, and it stops. It's the end of the speed of light. If you go beyond that, there's nothing. You have a freaking black hole. Yeah, you are the focus, the manifestation of a black hole. Yeah, that's what Christ became. Christ became nothing, exactly where he came from. Yeah, and then he came back just like he did as Adam, exactly the same way. And that repurposed the earth, repurposed it completely. Yeah, there's Alpha and Omega manifesting right there on that table, and it manifested as the existing light. Yeah, the light that we measure. Yeah, the pyramid that we see, all the things that are geometrically applied to the speed of light. Everything on earth is applied to the speed of light. We can't get outside of it. Yeah, but that's because Christ. Yeah, we're inside the body of Christ. We're inside the body of Christ. What we thought to be a person laying in there, all of a sudden became the light that was infinite, all the way out to the very end of light, to that point of light. Yeah, so that was infinity. Wow, there goes the picture. That was infinity. Yeah, and that brought everything back. And now we're sitting at a time of Jesus the Christ. Yeah, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, and everything is in that cycle of time. In real reality, it's in that cycle of time. So it's difficult. I can explain this to you, but what if physics came up with this simply because I left a cloth behind? Yeah, to prove this theory. And that brought all science to a 3D holographic ability to bring all the technologies of science today together with computer and all to create an understanding of what happened to me. Yeah, and this is what they came up with.
To change character drastically.
When you look at the image of the shroud, the two bodies next to each other, you feel that it's a flat image. But if you create, for instance, a three-dimensional object, as I did, the real body, then you realize that there is a strange dividing element, an interface, from which the image is projected up and the image is projected down. The muscles of the body are absolutely not crushed against the stone of the tomb. They are.
So that meant all of everything disappeared, and gravity no longer existed. So we can call it levitation, but the reality was that all things of matter was focused right there. All things of matter, whether it be the sun or the universe or the cosmos, it's all connected. It's all connected, you know, in the same law. Yeah. So this law became an infinite application of the law of God, an actual reality of the law of God existing and expressing itself, and that created a singularity. And singularity creates a sacred planet. And the only way it can happen is the way it just happened. Yeah, and that was through the crucifixion, yeah, the process of resurrection, yeah, and ascension. And ascension is the process where everything is in a new world. Yeah, we're now going into a process. Instead of always, our chakras are always going down, descending, always going down. That's our world in this Luciferian world. But with Christ, your chakras go up because you're in his body. You do not have a choice. And time is on his side because he's the Lord of time. So you don't even have a choice there. Yeah. So all these things behind virtues have to be applied for you to cope with the fact that God is in charge and that there's a plan. And you have to kind of trust it, but you have to get rid of Easter. Yeah, you have to get rid of pagan worship. You have to get rid of Lucifer, Who's the Pope? Yeah. And satanic relationships, who are like the Dalai Lama, you have to be willing to get rid of them, not kill them, not, do anything like that. Yeah. But let them go and realize what they are, and let them go because of what they are. Yeah. This guy practiced Luciferian teachings. Do I really want to be involved in that? Do I want to sit back and go, well, I guess, maybe I should question whether or not Lucifer is kind of like an okay guy, And if you go on to the internet, they're going to say, oh yeah, Lucifer's a great okay guy. He's actually the very first angel of existence. And that's not true. He's not the first angel of existence. But that's what they say. Because there's a plot for the coming of the Antichrist. And it will be Lucifer's son. Yeah? Because he's not with God. He's made manifest out of a demigod. Yeah? And he's demonically controlled. And every characteristic in his being would be avarice. Avarice. So we meet a person like Trump. Whoa, there's about as much avarice as you can carry in a body. Yeah? And there's a lot of other people like that. Yeah? Putin is like that. Yeah? The guy in charge of Korea is like that. The guy in charge of China is like that. Yeah? Avarice comes with the first ray. And it takes everything away from the heart. Yeah? It just keeps it completely invalid. Yeah? So just watch this.
Perfect. It means that the body is hovering between the two sides of the shroud. What does that mean? That there is absolutely no gravity. Other strange things you discover, that the image is absolutely undistorted. Now, if you imagine that the cloth was wrinkled, tied, wrapped around the body, and all of a sudden you see a perfect image, which is impossible unless the shroud was made absolutely taut, rigidly taut. Everybody thinks that the tomb signifies death. Not at all, the exact opposite. The shroud and the tomb signifies an unbelievable beginning. Because in the depth of the collapsed event horizon, there is something which science knows as singularity. This is exactly what started the universe in the Big Bang. We have nothing less in the tomb of Christ than the beginning of a new universe.
For centuries, the shroud has been viewed and analyzed as a record of a death, the end of the physical being. But Isabel Pitzig is suggesting that it is, in fact, just the opposite. A record not of an ending, but a beginning, which would suggest resurrection in its truest sense.
Yep. Yeah. So imagine this whole thing is to keep you from realizing that there's only one teacher. Yeah. And that they make it so simple. So many false prophets, and all you got to do is give money, and all you got to do is show up on Sunday, and all you got to do is put it in the envelope, and all you got to do, is darn a red robe, for the rest of your life, and carry on pujas and do that. But you know what it's like to live in Nepal? You know what it's like to live in Tibet? There's no jobs, there's nothing, So the reason why you become a monk or a nun is because it's the best paying job. And it's consistent, and you get paid, and you get a little bit from once you've graduated. People will pay you when you come to their house, and people will honor you in your life, and you'll have a sense of accomplishment. But there's no accomplishment. Talk to these monks and nuns in Tibet. Talk to them. Ask every single one of them, what's it like for you to be a monk or a nun? Have you accomplished anything? And they're all going to say no. I learned how to sweep. That's what I do. I learned how to sweep. I clean, and I make little figurines with butter, and I do ceremonies, and I do things like that. But actually, I'm not learning anything, I am just repeating the same text and the same mantras, and I'm hoping that I will accomplish what they say I will accomplish from this. But from what I can see, everybody around me is suffering from depression and anxiety and illness, and they lack, the blessings, the things you would expect to come with this. There's hardly a person in Tibetan Buddhism who's 45 years old that doesn't have the worst knees you can possibly imagine. They have arthritis, they have all kinds of kidney problems, they have all kinds of problems, because they eat just one grain, and they drink buttermilk, and that's good, that's great, that's helpful, but it's not going to make you through life, And people on the outside, they just go, well, you're a monk, you don't even eat, so I'm not going to give you money, I'm not going to give you anything to help you with, So most people, just automatically think that people who are monks and nuns are taken care of, and they have what they need, and they don't, they don't. I take care of a lot of monasteries, and most of those monasteries did not have children because they barely had enough money to take care of the adult lamas, And, so I had to open a Dharma center. I had to teach them how to eat. I had to teach them what food was really like, how to eat off plates, how to use forks and spoons, how to wash their hands, get their clothes washed all the time, how to be treated like parents, and taking care of them every day individually. Now, all those young kids are the older monks and lamas in charge of those monasteries, and they have all this as their background. They know that they need to wash their hands. They know they can eat with plates. They know it's a good idea to learn English. They know to study more and focus on these other things and do soul therapy. They know all that. So there's a whole other area of Buddhism that's opening up, that's changing. And there'll be the same thing in Christianity. There's billions of people, Christians, who are waiting for the coming of Christ. And you think the Catholic Church is going to be the ones to bring Christ to them? Not at all. They are doing everything they possibly can in every ceremony they possibly can to create bad karma. Bad karma. Whatever money you give them, 8 out of $10, goes to pay the Pope and pay the Cardinal and pay for the cars and pay for their houses and pay for all their drinking and all their cigarettes and all their food and restaurant activity and, their lavish lifestyle. I've never seen anybody so corrupt in lavish lifestyle than the Catholic Church. And that's your money. Your money who you're thinking these people are taking care of the poor. And they are the humble. They take care of the poor before they take care of themselves. That's what you, in your subconscious mind, has been led to believe this is who these people are. And they are not. They're not. Mother Teresa was not. The monks and nuns are not. The Pope is not. And they're corrupt. So coming and understand this stuff, my process of doing resurrection, the whole process with the event, everything of changing time and space. I mean, we can't come up physically with what an understanding is with catching up with light. But I actually passed it. And I resurrected because I passed it. It was that lack of accomplishment to be held down by the light and not go with the light. Be completely one with the light. Then you don't die. Then you realize you reincarnate and the light carries you from one life after another. It's magic. It's sacred geomancy of every single way you can imagine God to lay the lattice of reality to us and heaven and all of creation. But you have to be in the light. And the Lord is the light. He overcame the light. And brought forth a new light. The other one was corrupted. And that's why it's important that the Catholic Church is on top of him, use the name of his disciples, and say that they are the only existing church on earth. Because they are the biggest liar. They represent Lucifer. The accomplishment of Lucifer was to pull this off and create a Catholic Church and do what they do and get you people into their process. And running around thinking that Easter is Easter and Good Friday, the day of a crucifixion of Jesus Christ, is called Good Friday. You really have a right to change that, you know. And now that I'm here, maybe I can talk about it, and maybe I can label a few things, you know, and get things correct. And you would agree with it, you know, if I show you the truth, yeah, what really resurrection is, what really is the purpose of the crucifixion, yeah, and why was it so incredibly suffering for Christ, so long and so suffering, such an arduous process, yeah, and it's mainly because there's so little will inside of humanity to carry in any of the characteristic of the second ray of the heart, to carry your heart all the way from the worst of, you know, where you could be pulled down into hell and be in hell as you die, you know, and suffer all the way and then stay there, yeah, or you could be in your heart, yeah, and that process, and it's hard, that whole process, you can still be elevated out, yeah, through the compassion and the energy, the influence, the ability that comes with Christ to overthrow, no matter how much pain, no matter how much suffering, no matter what intention there was in the guards and anybody that was going on, it didn't matter, you know, it was all under the direction of God, and therefore worthy of going through. Yeah, not like, oh, you know, you're a terrible, evil person for doing this to me. Not a word like that came out. Yeah, it's understanding. You know, when you can go through so much and still be at a state of understanding and carry on the light and carry on the truth and carry on a teaching, you know, give a sermon while dying on a cross, you know, that is resurrection. That is what brings about the possibility of a resurrection. There is no death in something like that. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah. You know, so it's important to better understand this thing, and it's better to understand the fact that Easter is the wife of Satan. The egg is fertility and sex magic, and that's why we have homosexuality and all the perversions and everything, and why we have fake psychologists and everybody going, oh, it's perfectly great and a good idea for everybody to go LGBTEFG, you know, and just follow the path that we choose is our path, yeah, rather than be taught that there is a path, a singular path, one singular path, yeah. You try saying that to Oprah. She will take out a club and beat the shit out of you in front of people, you know, because the one thing she believes is that there is no one singular path. And not every single person must come to Christ. She believes those two things. That's the biggest thing she believes. Everything else is perfectly okay because then she has all the will to control the outcome of existence. Yeah. The path is hers, just like Satan says, you know. Do as you please. Yeah? Your own will. Do as you will. Yeah? And that's the same thing Oprah says. Do as you will. Yeah? And then the last thing, she will never say Jesus is Savior. She can't. You know, because there's too many demigods and too much going on for her to have the avarice to manifest what she can manifest in this world that allows her to do as she will. She benefits from doing as she will, because that way everybody else is under the wake of her karma, her will. Yeah. You imagine in that process of do as you will, you're not taking in consideration the effect it has on other people's lives. Yeah. Here you're sitting in a show, you're talking with people, and you bring these people in that are all bullshit, crazy people who are making statements in books, you know, we're all from men are from Mars and women are from Venus. Remember that one? Back in the 80s when she got famous and she brought that guy on stage and everybody says, oh my God, he is like a perfect person, you know, he's just so absolute right, you know, oh my God, it's so true, you know. And then the next thing comes along, you know, well, you know, we're all, you know, fully capable of having sex with both sexes, you know, and that we're hermaphrodites, you know, we're better off thinking in terms of being hermaphrodites, you know. Well, what happened to Venus and Mars, you know? And, you know, that was a big thing. That was like, you know, men are men and women are women, and that's kind of like, you know, but it wasn't real, yeah. And he didn't really write that book. When you come to find out about it, you know, you go, oh my God, you know, he wasn't even really a psychologist. He didn't really have these credits, you know, and everything. All these different books, hundreds of books and people who wrote books came through her door, you know, and everybody went, oh yeah, I'll do that diet. Oh yeah, I'll do that. Oh yeah, I'll go on Weight Watchers, you know, it's now Oprah Weight Watchers, you know, and it never works. She always follows the things that drive people off a wrong path. Yeah, do as you will. But when you do things like that, you don't take in consideration, does this cause anybody any harm? Do I know what I'm doing? Am I making a mistake? Is this going to have an effect on people in a bias, in a growing way, you know, to where they're actually abused in the process of following down the wrong path? And they waste their life. They fall into the hands of wrong people. Yeah, just simply because the direction was led that way. You know, so you find more and more false prophets, more and more false teachers, and that's what she established. Then we got the fake psychologist who never went to school in psychology, that big guy, you know, the bald big guy with a mustache. What's his name? Not Dr. Oz, but Dr. Phil. Yeah. Dr. Phil, fake psychologist. He's not a psychologist. He's not a psychologist, people. But he can say he's a psychologist. That's fine and dandy. He went to class, you know. He intended to be a psychologist. You know, he intended to get a degree. You know, golly, Oprah said he is. That's good enough, you know. And then he would harass and destroy people's lives over and over and over on TV, you know. And, you know, like Dr. Oz. Total quackery. You know, the guy just follows the routine. He doesn't know anything. He takes things that are momentary situations or fads, you know, and he jumps on those fads in order to make himself look like he's the inventor of that fad. Oh, you haven't heard of this, have you? You know, well, everybody actually has, but now he's going to be the one who introduces it, you know, and that's how he lives his life. As, you know, the Wizard of Oz back there, you know, doing his thing. You know, and they're all just false prophets, all living on the glory of this lady who claims she knows, you know, God. You know, and God is, according to her, God is in every one of us, and that we are all the manifestation of God, and our own free will is what creates God. Yeah? And well, that's paganism. That's relationship with the goddess, and it's relationship of how we work in a psychic understanding. Yeah, but it's not how it works in real reality. Real reality has to do with a hierarchy, and it has to do with the change of literal internal mechanisms that makes us think differently, to the point of common sense. And then we have an ability to see and aspire toward a goal with a vision in mind. Yeah, and this is on a collective level, massive, whether you're in Eugene, Oregon, or you're in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, you're getting the same dream. And within 5 or 10 years, you grow to be this mature person with these great interests because you've looked into it. At the same time, someone else is looking into it, because we aspire each other. Yeah, we are alike. We can be 1,000,000 miles away, and we vibrate, because we are all connected and we all have an effect, and our similarities strengthen another person's similarities. You don't know they have that similarity. There's no such thing as competition. All there is similarity. Does that make sense? Yeah? All right. So let's pray. So I'm going to do the great invocation, and this one is a visual. I hope some Catholics pick up this prayer. Hope everybody picks up this prayer. It's crazy. Okay, well, I've been here since the beginning, so I guess I'll be here through the end. So don't worry about it. Okay, let's just repeat after me. Lord Jesus the Christ, thank you for bringing us here. Lord Jesus the Christ, I open my heart to you today. I invite you to come inside. Lord Jesus the Christ, come and save my life. Receive me today as a child of God. Forgive all my sins and write my name in the book of life. I give myself to you, my spirit, my soul, my body. Now, the devil, the blood of Jesus the Christ is against you. I command you now to leave me. I do not belong to you. I am God's property. Leave my life. I disassociate myself from you. I renounce every evil covenant I have entered in with you. In the name of Jesus the Christ, I have received salvation. I am a child of God. Amen. This is visual, so watch the screen, and you can read the entire great invocation that I'm doing in the puja. And we're going to do Om, so no gum.
Let the forces of light bring illumination to mankind. Let the spirit of peace be spread abroad. May humanity of goodwill everywhere meet in a spirit of cooperation. May forgiveness on the part of all mankind be the keynote at this time. Let power attend the efforts of the great ones. So let it be, and help us do our part. Let the lords of liberation issue forth. Let them bring succor to the sons of mankind. Let the rider from the sacred place come forth. And come, say, come forth, O mighty one. Let the souls of mankind awaken to the light. And may they stand with massed intent. Let the fiat of the Lord go forth. The end of the woe has come. Come forth, O mighty one. The hour of service of the saving force has now arrived. Let it be spread abroad, O Mighty One. Let light and love and power and death fulfill the purpose of the coming one. The will to save is here. The love to carry forth the work is widely spread abroad. The active aid of all who know the truth is also here. Come forth, O Mighty One, and blend these three. Construct a great defending wall. The rule of evil now must end. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of mankind. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of mankind. May Christ return to earth. From the center, where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, a purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center, which we call the race of mankind, let the plan of love and light work out. And may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Sons of men are one, and I am one with them. I seek to love, not hate. I seek to serve and not exact due service. I seek to heal, not to hurt. Let pain bring due reward of light and love. Let the soul control the outer form, and let life and all events bring forth to light the love which underlies the happenings of the time. Let vision come and insight. Let the future stand revealed. Let inner union demonstrate and outer cleavage be gone. Let love prevail. Let all mankind love.
Okay, just relax. Okay, open your eyes. Take it easy. Okie dokie now. So the key thing to this is, as I've been trying to say over the years, is that every day is a holy day. Yeah. And that it gives us, each day gives us a vast opportunity to experience change. And maturity and development, and not going downhill and getting older every day and falling off ladders and having terrible events and all those things. Those things happen, yeah. But if you turn your dharma correctly, yeah, and you're patient and you live in the right lifestyle, you have an enormous opportunity to experience dharma rather than karma. And karma is when you are without senses. You put your foot in the wrong place, you are imbalanced, your mind is not thinking correctly, you burn yourself, you get in a crash. All these things happen, and those are karmic processes that have to do with karma that's pulling you away from the moment. Past life karma that you didn't take care of, yeah, and it's constantly coming at you, constantly, because you are always alive, you're always here, and unless you're taking the time to deal with every single day, to wipe away needless, wasted time you put into things, yeah, because the karma is going to come and get you when you don't expect it. It's not going to mess up you doing what you're doing on an average day. It's going to mess up when it comes down to you're making a life and death decision, yeah, and your ability to love someone or care for someone or do the right thing, when it comes down to true harmlessness, having your merit, having your level of discipleship show itself, If you don't take care of it and do all the right things, then when it comes to that moment, you'll find that you don't have it. And that you're lacking, and that you're much more pessimistic, rather than optimistic. You're much more fault-finding rather than finding a way, And all these things, you got to work on every single day without even knowing what they are. You got to work on it, making sure you're not wasting your time. You're learning. You must learn, yeah? And you have to really learn that you're a great person. You wouldn't be here, you wouldn't be sitting in this situation, you wouldn't be trying, if you haven't got an enormous amount of loving aspiration and kindness and caring and all these great characteristics that follow a disciple, are the things of a disciple, yeah. So you got to really 100% get rid of any fault-finding processes you have in yourself, because they will instinctually come out on other people as judgments on them. You'll do it. You won't have a reason, you won't have a why. It'll just happen, and you'll feel confused, and you'll feel you wish you hadn't acted like that, you wish you hadn't said that, you wish you hadn't had those experiences, and you can only get rid of them in the present moment. And it has nothing to do with that process. It has to do with you honestly being a soulful person 24/7. 24/7. You know, every opportunity you get, you never do what you're doing, whatever you're doing. You never, ever do it feeling that you're doing it because you have to. Yeah? Or you're doing it because no one else will do it. You know? Those are not good feelings. If they're there, deal with them. Deal with them properly. You know, calm yourself down. Take an essence. Do something to get that shit out of your head, because whatever you're doing, it's kindness. Yeah? You should enjoy that. You know, your act of kindness is something that's better than having cake. Yeah? An act of kindness is that way. It's just like other things you get that you really appreciate and like, and you think, oh, I love that, you know, but those are bad things, you know. You don't want to be feeding yourself crap in order to justify you're a good person. Yeah? You want to be doing and getting good things back by doing good things, you know, and then in that moment, that's when you get that justification. That's when you get that sense of gratification. It changes everything toward perverted sex. When your relationship to unrequited love, you know, has everything to do with not having these things put in place properly, because the love that's unrequited is your love to you. Yeah? Your self-love. Yeah? Your self-realization, your self-actualization. You know, all of that is the fact that you are loving, and you can't be loving to other people and be not loving to yourself, because the truth is you're not loving to other people too. And you can't see it because you're already covered up. You know, your senses. Yeah. It's important that you get what I have to give you. Yeah. Which is your senses, your chakras, your development as a soul, your development as a disciple, you know, and take it in, the reality that, oh my God, I am a disciple. I am a disciple, and I'll never fall out of being a disciple. I'll always be a disciple, and Christ will always be here. Christ will always understand. As long as I continue listening to the pujas, dealing with the etheric group, trying to be my better self at all times, you'll always receive blessings. And things will cleanse faster than you can ever imagine. Because that's what I do. Yeah? I change the options behind time. Yeah? And those options you don't even think about. You know, it's the master who's doing that. He's so far ahead of everything, you know, more than you can ever imagine. Because there's no ill feelings in the sense of doing this for you. No ill feelings in the sense of being on a cross and doing that for you, and understanding that doing this is for an outcome, you know. You know, it's not about, oh, I love my mom and I hate to see her in this pain and suffering and all that. I really don't care. Yeah, that's really where I'm at in that, you know. But I am sitting there in the process, but I am doing this in order to make her a better person, not that she makes me anything. You know, but she can't get this. No one can get this. The disciples can't get this. You know, the Romans can't get this. No one can get this. Yeah, and that's what's important, is that this is provided. It's not a choice. You don't have a choice. It's going to happen to you. And if you don't accept this as a real reality, false prophets will tell you differently. And I'm the only one who's going to tell you, you know, you have to accept it, because you don't have a choice. It'll only get worse. It'll only get worse, yeah? Yeah. So your process of rapture, your process of bliss, your process of peace, your process of understanding, your process of sense that you can cooperate and love other people and feel that they love you and that you really are a good person, to have those senses of yourself is self-actualization and self-realization. And you get that from the Yogi Christ. You get that. Yeah. Okay.